huge news in the world of, I think, all forms of media, right? Internet media, sports media, wheelings and dealings going on, stuff entertainment, media, all forms. It's not, it doesn't go too far past betting. Betting, I was going to say, doesn't go too far past media, but betting as well. Yes, because Dave Portnoy, known affectionately by some of his fans as El Presidente, which I'm not sure what the translation of that is, but I will have our people look up exactly what that means. He's back. He's back in charge of Barstool Sports as the sole owner. Of course, Dave Portnoy founded this organization, Barstool Sports. It started as a newspaper that he would give out for free and try to sell ads in out there in Boston, and grew and grew and grew until it's become the major general media company that it is. A few years back, after building up Barstool to this point that it was on the tip of the tongue of America, it was part of the cultural zeitgeist, wouldn't you say, Hot Dog?
I would say so.
Yes, and he decided to make a banger of a deal. He connects with a company called Penn Entertainment and sells the company to Penn Entertainment. Now, and this was fairly unprecedented at the time because Barstool Sports is a very controversial company, surrounded by, built upon the image of a fairly controversial figure. And I say controversial because he kind of says whatever it is that he wants to say. And you've heard all the trouble that Barstool has been in for saying controversial things in the past. So this was kind of a grand experiment, right? There's controversial, but still so profitable and still have such an incredible audience. Can we take in 2020, whatever, 2018, in the 2000s, can we take a company like this and have it exist within mainstream corporate environments? Can we take this sort of homegrown money and turn it into big corporate money? And the answer is no. Of course you can't do that. No. That didn't work out, but worked out for Portnoy because Penn Entertainment came in and they bought the company in two waves. I think first they got like 30% of the company, and then they bought more of it. Eventually, it was something like $500 million is what they paid for the company. And I would imagine that Dave, as the guy who founded the company, probably received a fairly significant chunk of that change. And, and they brought in a CEO, and they tried to make Barstool bigger and bigger. And part of that was building out their betting program. There's so much money in sports gambling now, which is really funny to me. The idea that I don't know, the morality there may not work for this gambling company. You're like, well, what are we talking about here? But they were apparently having trouble getting gambling licenses in certain states because of how controversial Dave and the company was. So Penn Entertainment, looking to make a huge deal, signs a deal with ESPN to take Barstool Sportsbook, which is a betting app that Penn created around Barstool, and turn it into ESPN Bet or something like that. So it will be ESPN Bet. They'll now have their own sort of gambling house that they can incorporate into all their shows instead of, because, a sports network, so much of interest in sports is predicated on people putting money on the games that,
right.
The idea of, instead of just getting a sponsor to come on board and be their gambling partner, create your own, it can be very attractive. But then
ESPN a lot less controversial than Barstool.
Disney owned ESPN, but Disney has this history. ESPN has this history with Barstool. You remember Barstool was supposed to have a show on ESPN. It lasted one episode, and they were like, "What?" It was one of those things where you
did it.
Yes, it lasted like one episode, and it was one of those deals where it was like the Van show or whatever, and it was like, how did this get approved? It takes so long to get a show off the ground. How did this go through the steps to get to a place where it's being aired on television? Because the minute it showed up on television, somebody realized we can't have Barstool on our network, and they canceled it. So
I mean, like one episode, it has to be really.
it wasn't about the episode. It was about the brand because the episode was fine. The episode wasn't crazy. It's just about the brand.
Okay.
But then it's like, well, then why'd you sign the deal to begin with? This is nuts. What an it's
We didn't know what we signed up for.
It's a nutty thing. You know, you want to believe that these people in positions of power are so much smarter and more advanced than we are, but there's a lot of human beings controlling all this stuff. That's something important to keep in mind throughout all aspects of life.
And human beings are stupid.
That's right. Some more than others. Am I right, hot dog?
Right.
So they go, okay, well, we're going to dump. We're not going to do this with Barstool anymore. We're going to do this with ESPN. So Portnoy comes back and he goes, that sounds good. I'd like to take Barstool back. And after getting $500 million from Penn Entertainment for Barstool, Dave Portnoy is able to get in there and buy his company back for $1. $1 is what Portnoy paid for Barstool, which is nuts because I would have paid 6 or 7 times as much as Portnoy paid for Barstool.
You could have afforded it.
100%. I would have given, and I would honestly, I could have given them 6 or 7 times that cash, and not even. And I would have been the owner. I would have walked in there, and I would have been the man. But they decided to go, okay, do what you're gonna do. Portnoy buys the company for $1, along with some, I guess, non-compete stuff. And if Portnoy sells the company, he has to give Penn Entertainment half of what he ever sells for. So it's not like he could just sell the company, buy it back for $1, and then sell it again. Because that'd be awesome.
Flip it for $2.
Yeah, I'm up
Double
for
your profits.
Double the money. I just doubled my money inside of 1 week. Maybe I should hit up Dave. Portnoy. Robert's here, yeah. How would you like to make 5 times your investment?
I'm listening.
I'm
listening.
okay. I made 5 times the amount that I put in. Yeah, so he's back. He's in charge, and
but why was that though? Like that still seems like even with the little arrangements and deals, it seems like quite the steal
for Portnoy.
Were they just so crazy? Were they just so crazy to just dump that brand?
Well, they needed to get out of it in order to sign this much bigger deal with Disney. So they needed to get out of it, right? And whatever, like the Disney deal is a $2 billion deal. So you're talking about $500 million. And yeah, sure, maybe they could find a buyer, maybe. But if they're sitting there going, we're getting out of this business because the gambling stuff isn't working out like we thought it was going to work out, who knows how to, it's his company. Like, who knows how to make money running that company more than him? So, like, I don't know who's going to come off the street and pay $550 for it. And do you want them to? If they've got stuff in the deal where if Portnoy sells it later, they still get half the money, you do want to put the guy in charge that you have faith is going to maintain it. And yeah, and you got to, and they probably had to unload it today. Like we can sign this ESPN deal now. If we get rid of Barstool today, we take it for $1. Dave's like, yep. yeah. Yes.
Dave said he's not selling. He said he's sticking with that until he dies.
Well, of course he said that. I mean, the whole brand of Barstool is predicated upon us versus them. He's got to now build, he's already calling it a pirate ship. I'll never sell it. Right. It's a pirate ship. I mean, he's like Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving. And I'm not
fucking leaving.
Right. And you're going to get strippers and little people in every Friday. It's going to be great. Everybody's going to want to work there.
I want to work there.
You do. You know what I call these? Fun coupons. Fun coupons.
I would probably be the little person that's getting darted around, though.
Yeah, but you'd have a good time. You'd be the one who took you'd take $2,000 to shave your head, not realizing it could have been $5,000. You realize I got $2,000 to shave my head? Yeah, they gave $7,000 to a guy last week. What?
I did it for free. They're paying you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's a big deal, and now it's like, it's just so funny because when a deal like this gets made, of course, all eyes are on it, and I feel like Portnoy is like an old, like radio guy in the sense that like there's a generation of people who grew up with like Stern and O&A and all those radio shows where all the behind the scenes drama would become a part of the show. And it all and
love it.
Right. It's great. But then there's this disconnect between what is actually like news. What should Varney be talking about? What should we be talking about on CNBC versus what is inter-office drama entertainment for the new Barstool? And so like I'm watching news channels and they're like, and Portnoy was disappointed to find out that his employees hadn't shown up on time, even though they knew he was the new owner. And I'm like, this isn't news. This is Barstool content. This is such an example of this bigger picture of people not realizing, it's not, everything is not everything. It's not all just one thing. It's okay to categorize stuff as that's for that, and we do this over here. Because
a little bit of disconnect there.
Right. Because Dave walked in, I think 10 o'clock the next day or whatever. And he was dismayed because I guess since he's not the CEO and he wasn't the owner, I guess he hadn't been in the office or whatever. Because I seen the video because they reported about it on the news. He was walking around the office going like, what the fuck is this? Nobody's here for work. This is ridiculous. And then he, started going on his own podcast, just blasting employees for not showing up. And I was like, look, I don't know if it's...
It might have been a hybrid day.
That's the other thing. Dave hasn't run a company in post-pandemic hybrid day.
Right.
Like when he was running things, Gen Z wasn't quite in the workforce yet, right? Right. So say it's like, even 5 years ago, right? Gen Z is just starting to sprinkle into the workplace. It was really like the millennials were just kind of aging out. Now he's back and it's more of the Gen Z hybrid workday environment. He hasn't run a company where people are getting lazy girl jobs, right? How is he going to cope with the fact you like lazy girl jobs?
I love a good lazy girl job.
I've been following this trend on TikTok, lazy girl jobs. It goes along with quiet quitting, which I'm not against. Here's what I'm against, okay? Because quiet quitting is very popular. Lazy girl jobs. Right. It's when people figure out, like, I want to get a comfortable job that makes good money, that I don't have to do a lot of work at, and I don't take it home. I have my work-life balance is a big thing now, and I'm not against that. Where it starts to hit against a wall for me is when they go, they get a lazy girl job.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months into the lazy girl job, they start complaining that the boss doesn't value them enough. And you're like, well, wait. You can't have it both ways. Like, you can't be hustle culture, Mr. or Little Miss motivated when it's time to get a raise. But when it's not time to get a raise, be like, no, I'm just perfecting my work-life balance, and I really don't do a lot at work. It's fine to not do a lot at work.
It's a flex now. People used to flex about how,
right,
I work so hard and the boss can count on me at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night, and now it's just like, oh, you simp. You actually do that for your job?
Yeah. You mean you get cucked by your boss? Are you kidding me? Yes. But then when it's like, hey man, I should really be better appreciated. Like, you can't have it. Yeah. You can't have it both ways. Because if you're appreciated, that means there's expectations of you. It's like if you want the appreciation but you don't want the expectations, then we're at a crossroads here that we're going to have to figure out, because that's not what you're looking for. Right? I mean,
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. That will not stop me from telling management that I feel underappreciated in 6 months' time.
You will.